All right, now does anybody have good news? Yeah, repeat it. Ruby. Go again.
For those watching the recording, Ruby is moving in. In a warmer house.
Other good news, anybody?
I have a working car.
Yes.
Yeah, I went that thing on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it went good.
I impressed my
Yeah.
wife with abilities to lift the battery out of the car.
I was pretty.
Replace it.
She was impressed. She saw it doing gas. I heard.
I got good news when it's my turn.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So when we were leaving, the day Junior was born, I went to go get food down in the cafeteria. And there was a guy who their kid was born a couple days prior, but was in the NICU. He was in the elevator, they were leaving, and I had talked to him for like 2 seconds in the elevator. I ended up running into him yesterday at Firestone. Like, he's waiting on a car. I'm like, you look familiar. You got a kid. Did we run into an elevator at Cowboy? He's like, maybe. But we connected. He's a brand new dad, all that stuff. I got his number. His daughter's name's River. His her name is Dave? Question mark. But I got his number. So he was really excited about like just having other friends that are also parents. So gonna try and make a new friend.
Yeah, come on, friends.
Friends.
That's awesome. I've never heard somebody with a question mark after the name, but.
Today you can't tell, man. The entire keyboard is 3 games. Ampersand, get over it. Are you guys still, did you guys study?
Brian with a Y.
What's his name?
With the Y. But
It's the guy that
DJ.
Lauren brought over,
DJ.
or like
DJ.
DJ?
Yeah.
Does it?
Sure. It's 3 times. Yeah, you gotta say it 3
Well,
times.
it's not DJ.
yeah,
It's the J at the end. Got it, with the red hair. They feel like it looks exactly like.
DJ?
Opposite.
Is it
Looks like
DJ?
a bird, but I think
Is it potentially DJ?
I think it is.
I think his name's Dave with a question mark. Yeah. Let's do my.
Let's get one.
Yeah, you see what I did there? You see my angle? Actually, I have my own good news.
What is your good news?
I feel like I'm getting closer to my coworker, and it's good.
Nice.
Your coworker.
Yeah, so his name's Seth.
Go.
Your son, DJ.
It might be, I don't know at this point. So I had to get a ride from him yesterday, and because Beck had the car. She had my car, so he gave me a ride home, and we just kind of chatted it up, and we're able to kind of basically interact outside of the workplace a little bit. Granted, it was, we were still both wearing work attire, so, but whatever, I'll take what I'm getting. We were kind of jamming out to his music. Dude rocks hard, like heavy. He rocks heavy. And, but I was able to like invite him into the backyard, which made me immediately feel like a dad.
Yes.
I was like, dude, you want to check out the backyard? And he was like, I'll come over. And showed him around, and he was like, yeah, you can do some stuff back here, you can play around. And I was like, that's the plan. And, it was just good to kind of bond a little bit more outside work with him. So, but be praying for him though. His name's Seth again.
Seth.
For memory. He had a really close friend. He had a really close friend suicide. And so he was out of work today. Yeah, I'm gonna hit you with that after the good news. Sorry. I felt like I should leave with some good news instead. But he took a day, personal day today. So I was just thinking about him today. It's gotta be tough.
Seth.
Seth.
DJ.
Seth.
Yeah, coworker. Any other good news? We did have a lot of people at 5 o'clock today, Jared. Yeah, conceal my good news.
Yeah, your face will like every.
Hey, Garrett, say it.
We did have a lot of people at Bible Talk. We had a surprise visit from Rich Bartoli. So he was actually going to a funeral and stopped by for a little bit beforehand. But it was cool to see. Like we had a guy who came last week, showed up again. His friend sat down that he didn't mean to join for Bible study, but we made him join. So, but then two of the other guys, Johnny and Jake, who were both kind of studying the Bible. We have a lot of J's who are studying the Bible right now.
JD.
But it was probably the most people we've had at a Bible Talk this semester so far. We have a lot of Bible studies going on, but not a lot of those people actually show up to Bible Talk. So it's really cool. I felt like it was a great discussion and just good to connect with those guys. And so we are going disc golfing this Friday. I just want you to join right before we go play guitar. So,
Yo, Landon.
yeah.
You guys can start your own little print out, put it up in Smith Hall and have a little tab that you pull off. You want to join us? Take a number.
Yeah, we could.
I've seen it. The only time I've ever seen it before was with renting a rental property. But you gotta do what you can.
We'll think about it.
Yeah, think about it. Right.
Other good news that we have. So we have Landon did his first Bible study on Sunday, right after church. We went to Calamity Gaze that way, I think. And sure. But it was great. He's eager, interested, and so it was great to sit down. I've been playing guitar with him for 2 weeks now, and so it's just to get to the point of actually doing a Bible study together was great. And our server actually saw us open up the Bible and was like, "Oh, what are you guys studying?" So I gave him an invite for church and stuff, and so it's just cool to see that we're finally tracking down the people who've kind of been around. And then we did a study with DJ yesterday, and same kind of thing. He was super interested, super eager for it, and so I'm really kind of excited about those guys. And we have tons more people who are studying, and so campus is kind of hitting that point where it's we have studies, kind of challenging people, getting people to come around. And so, it's awesome to see how God is moving and to really see, it feels like that community is starting to build on campus. And so the two of the guys who came to Bible Talk today, both knew each other. DJ actually brought a friend to the study yesterday. And so it's we're starting to see more and more people show up and kind of come around. So exciting stuff. So let's get into the Bible.
Okay.
Let's do it. So we've been talking about resetting our culture for the past month or so. We've talked about the purposes of our meetings, talked about our personal strengths and weaknesses and how to maximize those. We've talked about discipling and worship. Talked about connecting with visitors, and last week we did a recap of our entire series that we did on In a Pit with a Lion on a Snowy Day. And we just wrapped that up. Now we're transitioning to resilience and focusing on that portion of grit. And so how has all of that been going? That's a lot. It's a lot to kind of take in, and especially as we're talking about kind of reestablishing our culture, there's a lot to put into practice. And so all the audio and video, just by way of reminder, all of that audio and video is in the Google Doc, in the Google folder. Watch all of those as a recap. But today I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about something I think is a little bit more challenging for us. Because, we talked about like kind of high level stuff, like I want to get a little bit more direct and personal. So I'm going to talk about how to love well, because we can dream big dreams and we can hope that Huntington is going to explode and we're going to have, 500 disciples here, and we can get really excited about that. But in order for that to happen, we have to master loving people well. And so before we begin, let's pray. Does somebody want to pray?
I'll pray. Dear God, thank you for today. Thank you for being able to meet up on campus, school, nice refresher. God, I pray for tonight's lesson that whatever is on Sean's heart, that it may be basically put onto ours. I pray that we're open to that and that we are ready to receive training and righteousness and let the Spirit move. It's in your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Cool. We're going to start over in Acts 2. And so I have 3 points today. So Acts 2, starting in verse 42, the classic. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and miraculous signs were done by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. Selling their possessions and goods, they gave to anyone as he had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. We talk about this scripture often, but do we live this out? They were devoted to 4 things: to the apostles' teaching, to fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. So are we actually devoted to those things? This is the foundation that the early church was built on. Like it's not like they had, midweeks and church on Sunday and they had Croctoberfest. Like they had 4 things and these were it. And so can we say that our region is built on the same foundation? Or do we occasionally do these things and use our season of life as a cover for a lack of conviction? It says that they met together every day. It says that they met together every day in the temple courts. And I actually don't think that's that unreasonable of a standard for us to have. That sounds like a lot. But if we have time to watch Netflix, TikTok, and YouTube every day, how can we not find some time to spend with disciples? As of this Saturday, half of our region lives within 3 blocks of each other. I'm pretty sure you guys can key and hit each other's houses.
Not recommended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like the other half is on campus every day. Like the only people who are really at a distance, and that distance of a 7-minute drive, is the Portillos. And they're the only people who are legitimately in a season of life that doesn't allow them to meet up with people. Like they have 2 kids that they have to take care of. On top of that, we have the convenience of always having some kind of cell phone or some way of contacting people that like we can always call or text each other. It takes very little effort to send a text to someone and say, I was thinking about you, or I was praying about you. Like it's just a matter of remembering. And we should be praying for the people that we love. We're going to love well. You have to be praying for people. That includes your family, that includes our region. But if our list stops there, it's a selfish list. Because those are people who pour back into us. It's not an unconditional love. Unconditional love doesn't care whether or not people were bad. And so we have to be praying for the lost here in Huntington, for specific people who we're reaching out to and who we want to reach out to. I think we all have to have some kind of list of people that we're thinking about, praying about. Because the reality is, if we're too busy for that, then we have to really reconsider our priorities. Like if we're too busy to pray for people who we want to connect with and share the gospel with, something's wrong. You know, our love has to be an everyday kind of love that is consistent and cares about the small things as well as the big things. I heard a great discipling lesson by somebody at a retreat once. It was like, I don't want to know how your week was. I want to know how your day was. Like, we should be constantly interacting with each other, sending each other scriptures, like just hanging out. Like that should not be like a rare thing for us. And that can be a lot, but we all have time that we're doing stuff that we can easily invite people along, you know, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's cooking dinner, like whatever, just constantly calling people, being in contact. Like that's the kind of community that cares for each other. And that kind of consistency is what God calls us to. So that was the first point, is loving well requires consistency.
Oh, okay.
I didn't say that in the beginning.
I don't know anything about not saying.
My second point is loving well requires initiative. Over in Matthew 14, another classic Jesus scripture. Starting in verse 14, when Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a remote place and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food." Jesus replied, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." "We have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish," they answered. "Bring them here to me," he said. And he directed the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to his disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children. And so we see here that Jesus sees the need in front of him. He looks out and he sees that these people need healing. They need somebody to lead them, and he has compassion on them. And that compassion leads him to take initiative. You know, Jesus didn't wait for people to come up to him and ask to be healed. He took the initiative, he initiated and offered healing. And that's a subtle, like a small difference, but that means the world. I mean, think about walking around campus, and if you never stopped somebody and asked them if they wanted to study the Bible, I can almost guarantee you nobody would ever study the Bible. Like, nobody would, because nobody realizes the initiative that they need to take. We have to be the ones to take that initiative. You know, if we're going to be like Jesus, we have to be initiators. You won't never find somebody who's to study the Bible with if you don't initiate. Jump my point. Jump the shark there. You know, you'll never build deep connections with your discipler if you don't initiate. Or you'll never build deep relationships with the other people in our region if you don't initiate. You know, Jesus saw the need before him and did something about it. And so, do you see the need? You know, when you see the campus students, do you see people in need of a model of faith? Do you see your discipling partner in need of a safe space? Do you see your coworker in need of salvation? I think when we see the need, it helps us to initiate, because we realize that's a need that I can fill. That's something that I can help that person with. You know, the reality is we don't have the luxury not to initiate. We are a region of 12 people. 13 people now. Yay, baptisms. We're a region of 13 people. Like, we don't have the luxury of like, oh, somebody will pick it up. Like, no, we all have to initiate. We all have to be contributing to what goes on in our community, because if not, that's a huge percentage of our region. I don't know what 1 in 13 is, but I know what 1 in 12 is. Like, well, never mind. I know what 1 in
10 is.
8. Yeah, I know what 1 in 8 is. 12.5. Yeah, 12.5%. Whatever, you know, it's less than that. But we can't afford to have like one person doesn't initiate. We're at like 90%. That's not enough to actually meet the needs of our community, let alone reach out to the lost people in Huntington. You know, without everyone being on board, we'll continue to see just a few people be baptized every couple months instead of the multiplication that God promises. And so we have to be willing to initiate. The third point is loving well requires patience. Over in 1 Corinthians 13. First Corinthians 13, starting in verse 4, it says, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. You know, love is patient. It says that it starts with that. You know, love gives the other person space to mature. You know, I think about it, God in his love and mercy patiently waited 20 years for me to repent. And so how long are you willing to wait for those around you? You know, love does not give up easily. It fights to stay in relationship. And love still remains, keeps healthy boundaries. It doesn't enable abuse, but it holds no record of wrong. You know, it's willing to have the hard conversation that says, that's not okay, but I'm still going to love you no matter what. The word for patient here is macrothomeo. Probably butchered that, but it means to be patient in bearing offenses and the injuries of others, to be mild and slow in avenging. And that's what, like, I think of. Have you guys ever seen Zootopia? At the DMV, the sloth is like, you know, takes all day to get all the paperwork done. It's pretty accurate of what the DMV is normally like, but like that's. I think of like, you know, somebody punches that sloth in the face. The sloth is very slow and like responding and react. Like that's how our love is supposed to be. It's not reactionary. It's not easily offended. You know, we should be the least offendable people in Huntington. Think about that. Within the city limits.
Sure, small.
You know, you know, there should be a wide range of people who we are able to be around and spend time with. You know, somebody who's easily offended is hard to stay in relationship with. It's one of my favorite lines from any kind of like talk or anything like that. The speaker said, it is really hard to remain in relationship with someone who's insecure, who's constantly focused on themselves and is constantly worried about, because an insecure person is easily offended. and it just destroys relationship. And so what are the limits of your love? What experiences have set those limits? Because the reality is we all have different stuff that we can point to, you know. One time in first grade, my mom, you know, whatever, like, but I think it's processing those things and working through them so that we can increase our capacity for love. You know, if we're gonna have an impact in Huntington, we have to be patient. Like we have a very difficult harvest field. It's the Bible Belt, it's Appalachia, like those two things together mean that there's a lot of just realities of life that people deal with here that they don't deal with other places. And that a lot of people here think that they're fine and they're not.
Generational salvation.
Yeah,
Daddy,
sure.
I go to the place my daddy goes.
Yeah.
Big on that whole.
Yep. And so if we're gonna have an impact, we have to be patient. Like it's not gonna happen in the next 2 weeks. Like it's gonna be a long term, it's gonna be 5, 10, 20 years down the road. So we have to have that commitment to see that through. And so some practicals in terms of loving people well. Number one, when you think of somebody, send them a text. And that's one of the habits that I've started to develop is just sending people texts. I actually texted my cousin the other day because as I was working on this, I thought of her. And she said, "What a pleasant surprise." Most of the time I get ghosted. But the fact that somebody said it was a pleasant surprise is enough for me to continue to do it. But that's like, I think the Spirit puts people on our hearts. And when we think of somebody, like sending them a simple text, that could radically change how their day is going. That could radically change how their life is going. I think it's those little things that create opportunities. And again, it takes very little effort to send a text. To just say, "Hey, was thinking of you." It's literally all I said. "Hey, was thinking of you. Hope you're doing okay." Like, I think I actually said, "I hope you didn't die." Like,
Little family humor.
yeah, the second one is have a written and highly visible list of people to pray for. And this is how I stay on top of Bible studies, honestly, is I write them down on our big whiteboard calendar that hides behind our door. But it helps me to remember, and every day when I finish reading my Bible and I go to pray, it's a list up on the wall. Like I don't have to sit there and think, who was that guy that we sat down and stood, like, it's right there. Like I don't have to sit there and think through, like, you know, where people are at, or like their names are just up there and I can just pray right there. And it helps me to keep them in mind too. As I'm like going through my day, I'm like, oh, how's my relationship with this person going? Do I have like an actual friendship, or is it just we meet up once a week and, you know, he listens to me rant about the Bible? Like, number 3, I think, set reminders to catch up with people. Once again, this is how I stay on top of things. Like I have, I think, 20 recurring weekly reminders about ministry things. Things like send text messages to people. Things like, you know, post on Instagram. It's really the big ones. Those are like the ones I have to keep track of. But I have on there, I have probably 8 or 9 people who I have set reminders every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, whatever it is. Like once a month to just catch up with people. And it helps me to maintain my relationships with people over a long distance. And it helps me to like remember, like, oh yeah, like there are things going on outside of Huntington, and like you know, how things are going here, like that's not all God is doing. God is doing incredible things here and all over the world. And the last one is build friendships, not events. I'm reading a couple of the young ministers. We're all reading The Mission, which was like a book put out in like the 80s, and then they updated it. And so it's basically a collection of short essays by ministers who have been in mission fields overseas, who have planted churches, have started ministries. And the one chapter was about a young church in Jakarta, Indonesia. And they were talking about the power of community. And they said an events-based ministry sees evangelism as inviting people to an event. And an inclusive community, on the other hand, invites people into their lives. And the reality is we can do as many game nights as we want. We can do as many Bible talks and Friday night devos and, you know, Giants game watch parties where they lose and we're all sad because we wanted them to beat the Cowboys.
Oh my God.
We can do as many of those as we want. And as long as evangelism still stays as just an invite in our mind, we're never going to have radical impact. It's when we become a loving, inclusive community that there's that spark and God starts doing crazy things all over the place. And so we'll close out with some discussion questions. Number one, what makes it difficult to love people? Been a long time, remember. But number two, which of the three areas is your weakest area? So in consistency, taking initiative, and being patient. And what can you do to work on that area? So yeah, open it up for thoughts. Anybody got thoughts?
I can go. I feel pretty consistently at all three of these, but if I had to zoom in on one, I'd probably say like consistency would be my big one. And so I just think I can very easily get caught up into the weeds for things that need to get done and stuff like that, and kind of just view like, you know, friendships. It's like, okay, when I have time this weekend, like that'll be when stuff happens or whatever. And so, you know, but then other things happen, so it can be a long time before like I consistently like reach out again. And so that's something I think I would probably need to work on.
Yeah, it's tough when it's like, I feel like especially with disciples, sometimes it's like, oh, I'll see him at midweek, I'll see him at church. And it's like, but like I think it's the times outside of those that build deep relationships, you know?
Yeah.
That's why we can't just invite people we're studying the Bible with to church in midweek. I wish we could, that'd be great. Only they'd show up. Yeah,
I wanna go.
No,
go.
Oh.
EJ? That'll never die.
I did,
Is it what's the weakness before that we went over?
Required consistency, required persistence.
Oh. Definitely consistency.
The game.
You already chose.
Yeah.
Right. I guess I'll go with consistency because that's the truth. Yeah, I think just like the other two, initiative and patience.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been waning with patience though. I've been trying really trying to hang out with this guy. Seth, the guy I talked about earlier.
Seth.
You bet. Anyways, and I've had that feeling of like, almost like early jealousy into relationships. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes, it's odd, I know, because it's like another dude, but I'm like, man, I really just want, I want your time, I wanna hang out, and then like. Cause initiation, I'm number one, I've been,
Yeah.
every point, I've been like, wanna go over? Hey, can I, I've been like, let me
He
go over.
invites himself over.
I'm like, can I come to your house? Let me come.
Like I sat in his car this morning, I actually hopped in before he even got out of work.
Yeah, I didn't ask him for a ride, I told him he's giving me one.
Yeah.
But consistency, yeah, and
Yeah.
patience, I don't know, I would say like, I'd say those. Are like tied, maybe, I don't know, so, yeah, that's what I think I need to work on is. Being consistent with. Like I am being consistent, I'm gonna go with patience. Like consistently badgering him about hanging out.
Yeah.
But maybe more so, when I look at it in regard to like maybe disciple relationship. Definitely consistency on that one. But as far as like reaching out to anybody else.
Yeah. You look at us, you're like, you guys are already saved, I'll see you in heaven.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in eternity.
Yeah, really.
I'm trying to think of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's I think finding that like balance with patience. Like, I think for me, having like on campus, it's like, oh, I have 4 years with these people. Like, I don't have to, the freshmen that I'm meeting now, I don't have to like baptize them tomorrow. Like, I think having like a 4-year mindset with them is a little bit more of like, oh, okay. This isn't like, we gotta meet up every day and I gotta see them at like. I can allow time to pass and the Holy Spirit will work on them, and as long as I am like consistently in their life, it, gotta work. And I don't know what that scale is for not campus students, because they don't go away. They just die, like, people move, whatever, but like, yeah, I think that having that like long-term mindset, I feel like helps a little bit. But
Do that.
We had to share a list of people who are studying the Bible somewhere.
yeah,
Yeah. I need that. It's just gonna be DJ.
DJ friend.
we, yeah.
Is DJ studying?
When DJ showed up to the study, he brought his friend along, and I've met his friend twice now. I was like, oh, Paul, right? And he goes, no, it's Andrew.
Oh, that's bad.
So,
That's so bad.
yeah, everybody on that list is either DJ or Paul.
Yeah, great. No Andrews.
Yeah. What are you saying, Lee?
I was gonna share, I think mine's patience. I kind of suck at patience. I'm so bad at it. I just feel like I feel like my problem is that I feel like I really like relationships, so like I put a lot into them, and then when I don't feel like I get the return, I get really hurt and like bitter. So I think sometimes with like initiating with people, like I put a lot into it, and then it just seems like they don't.
They suck.
Yeah, they suck. And like I feel what Rebecca's saying, people suck. But I just get so hurt about stuff like that. And then like I want people to change on like my time. Like I expect like I'm putting this much in, like you should be here by now, or like you should be doing this for me. No, it sounds bad, but like I don't know, I just think the patience part is the hardest one for me, just because like I have to wait for people, I have to wait for God to change people, and I have to wait for God to bring people along. And I think like if it was up to me, I would like have them be.
You were God.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
If I was
I
gone,
need to go faster.
I'd be like, come on, speed it up, kid.
Yeah, yeah.
I like she's fine.
No, I was gonna say.
As she looks at you.
Yeah, she went.
Well, because I was gonna say something about puppet, but then I was like, blocked eyes. So it's kind of weird. Yeah, but yeah, patience is fine.
So,
Yeah, well, you were
They're only
walking around, so,
walking around like a dead pig.
yeah. How did you get Maya's last name? Because I never gave it to you, and I don't know it.
Cause he's smart.
She
Just
filled
so
out
that
the
you
thing.
know.
Oh,
Yeah, she filled out the thing.
Like, it's like, all right.
Yeah, that's how, I mean, that's how we met her, was a
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
At least he was on the back.
It's like, how did I was like, I never gave it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's one of like I think that's like, for me, that's the benefit of prayer, is that it reminds me like, oh yeah. I can't make it grow. As much as that sucks, like. Oh, God. Like, so.
Staring at all that. Grab the desk.
Other thoughts? Go work at. Consistency, initiative, and patience. Yeah.
Like I can kind of disappear. We're not doing.
Hmm.
Somebody doesn't text me about like an event or something.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it text me inside. Like follow the people, like see how it.
Yeah.
Like currently.
Yeah, it's one of those things, I'm not like naturally good at it. I don't naturally think like. I have like random people pop in my head, you know. I watch a TV show or something, and in my mind, the people are like, I see something on somebody on campus, I'm like, oh, you know, makes me think of this, but like, I'm not good about like. Consistently following up with people. And so that's why I have reminders, because otherwise I wouldn't get it done. You'd be like, so who's studying the Bible?
Great question.
You tell me, Rich. Who is studying the Bible? So, yeah. You're the only one who has.
Yeah, I was given a good silent moment.
Sean was like, trying to.
I know, he was
Rest his
really-
eye, and he was like.
Come on.
You.
I feel like me and initiative go hand in hand because I don't initiate. There's no consistency. I have to be initiative to have consistency. So I feel like both those for me have been really bad lately. I give props to Lacey because she's fantastic. She's always texting me like every single week. And I definitely
Yeah.
be patient.
It's like every day, it's like, hey, did you get my last text?
Okay.
Hey, did you get my last 2 texts? Hey, did you get my?
Yeah. Wow. That's why I said it was correct. And I'm terrible at texting her back, but no, you're pretty good. Anyway, yes, I could be way better at this too, and I like the idea of setting reminders. I feel like I'm terrible at doing it anyway, so maybe having a note or something, or a wall where I put my stuff on would help me be more initiative and consistent. Inside and outside of the room.
Yeah, and I feel like all 3 of these play into each other. Like they're all like overlap, and I think that's a challenging thing. I think is that loving people well requires a lot. Doing all 3 of those things well, and so, you know, it's like getting a soda. You can't put in 3/4 and think that you're gonna get 3/4 of a soda. Like you have to put all the change in there.
I remember back when it was 2 quarters, you get a whole set.
Now you could get a can. Yeah.
Now we're getting,
Bagels are
putting in
amazing.
$3 and you get, they're like, give me another quarter. 3.25 out here. Garrett knows, you got mad about it. But I mean, I didn't. Garrett was just like.
Garrett's probably sitting there like, yeah, man.
Garrett was like,
Sure.
bad beat,
It's like, I'm content with water.
man.
see, what about people online?
Busy.
I hope you guys can hear us. Georgie might be a little loud. I feel like I'm pretty good with initiating. Consistency is subpar. It'll be good for like a little bit and then it drops off. And then what was the last one?
Patient.
Patience. Yeah, that's my worst one. I'm just such a like immediate gratification person, and you know, I work in sales. You know, I try to get the things that are quick. Get things done now. And those long, drawn out things are harder for me to be patient for. So yeah. Sorry.
Reggie thought that was funny, I guess.
Say it sounded forced.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like one of the challenges too is applying this to like all contexts. Like with campus, I feel like I'm great about initiating and like, patience, maybe not so much, but like, I feel like initiating, like being consistent, like I have systems to make sure that that's taken care of, but I feel like it's easy for me to be like, like, I don't know what time Jacob gets off work today. But I feel like that, like, rather than just calling and you either answering or not answering, like that, I feel like there are easy excuses that I find to not.
That's
So-
what it is.
Yeah.
That's
It's a two-way street. I got a call from somebody at 3 a.m. this morning.
Oh.
I did not answer the phone, but no, it was somebody who got baptized in Pittsburgh, but he went to school in Arizona. So I have a feeling he's in Arizona and he called at like 11:50 their time, and it was 3 a.m. here.
He wasn't
making
time
John's over there. But yeah, I think it's like, it's easy to think like, like I can imagine me being up at 3 a.m. and thinking, nah, that person's probably asleep, and like not even calling. Versus just,
Yeah,
just try it, like,
yeah,
See what happens.
yeah. Last week we were talking about your friend that was just like, can I borrow your car?
yes.
It's the same guy.
Different guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, wow, this guy comes up a lot.
Yeah.
Jackson, Hobson's, you guys have thoughts?
I guess I'll go. I was thinking more of like the initiating part.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm like extremely patient, but initiating is probably something I could work on. Just like I guess taking that first step is kind of something that I can just find excuses of like not to do, like, oh, that'd be kind of weird, or like stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. What do you feel like is the hardest part in that? Like what makes that so difficult?
That's a really good question.
Thanks.
I mean, I guess just kind of like being anxious about the situation. Like let's say like trying to spark a conversation with someone maybe at work or one of my friends.
Yeah.
I would think of like 5 different ways that could go down, and then I'd go to open my mouth and I'd just like completely flub the entire thing. And then, yeah, like it's just kind of like what goes through my mind about it. So then I'm just like, I'll just do it some other time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's easy to think like you run away with like the what ifs in the negative sense. You're like, I'm gonna go up and then they're not gonna like what I'm gonna say, and then they're gonna punch me in the face, and then I'm gonna get fired, and it's like you get lost down this rabbit hole. And I think what's cool is that we can use that same mechanism to go the other way. Like, I'm gonna go talk to them, and then they're gonna be interested in studying the Bible, and then they're gonna study with my boss, and then my boss is gonna give me a pay raise, and then, you know.
Very positive.
Yeah. I feel like that helps me to like overcome that anxiety is like, oh, what if God uses this, So. Hobson. There you go.
Yeah, I think maybe an initiation, possibly for me. Yeah, either that or consistency.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit of both.
Are you gonna steal Ruby's answer and say both of them together?
Yes.
Sorry, man, I'll let you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been trying to get a little better with initiation. I started after work calling somebody and letting them know like what, if whether they pick up or if they don't, just like talking to them, seeing how they're doing, catching up, or leaving them a voicemail. I love them, thinking about them, stuff like that. And so I've been doing that past few weeks. But yeah, it's just been like family and disciples. So
Yeah. But I think that's huge. That's like, I think that's exactly what like, initiating and like going after it, like that's what I think it takes to love people well. So, yeah.
cool.
I think for me, I don't know what this would fall under, probably patience, but whether a person reciprocates it or not. Like, I think initiating isn't hard in itself, but it's doing it over and over again, whether the person is giving back or not. Which I think, I don't know, that sounds selfish and maybe it is, but yeah, that's where I think it's a small mixture. It's kind of if you put a little bit of initiation, a little bit of consistency, and a little bit of patience in a pot and stir it up. That's where it's hard for me. But I think the larger portion of each of those things, none of them are daunting for me. It's just a little bit of everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I get frustrated when people don't text me back. I get ghosted by like so many people on campus. Just like the nature of campus, but yeah, I can relate to that. It's like, holy cow, I started putting it like in my Bible talk announcements, I put like, if you don't want me to text you anymore, just let me know. And a couple people have like actually said like, take me off your list, but I still text like at least 40 or 50 people every week about Bible talk, and they don't respond. So,
Yeah. Yeah, probably. I like what you said, just as soon as you think of somebody, text them. Because I know I'll tell people, like, if you need anything, let me know. If you need anything from the grocery store, I will pick it up for you. But people don't like to be needy. They don't like, I don't like to ask other people for help. So I guess I expect people to do that because I always want to be available, but I should change that and then like initiate when I do think of them. Because when I go to the grocery store, I always think of people who live on campus who maybe need a few things like snacks and stuff for their dorm, but and I'll tell them like at our Bible studies, like text me if you ever need anything from the store. But I should do that like when I'm going to the store because I do think of people. It's just like I'm in a rush. I'm kind of in the zone getting stuff done. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if this person needs anything. But then I just kind of brush it off and keep going about my business. But so yeah, I think probably initiating or just the practical of texting people when I think of them. So thank you for that suggestion.
Cool. I think what's cool is that everybody kind of shared different parts of this. And so we all have different ones that we're naturally better at, naturally worse at. And so we actually can help each other in those areas by asking, oh, Jacob, how do you initiate so well? Like, oh, yeah, how are you so patient? Like, we can actually use the community to grow in these different things. So yeah. Cool. It is 8:00, so we will wrap up. In terms of announcements, Oktoberfest this Sunday, be there, be square. Yeah, it's right after church. It's gonna be great. Let's see, other announcements. Next Wednesday, we'll have midweek again, right back here. Campus Bible Talks. We have one tomorrow, and then next week, Wednesday, Thursday again. For the Huntington area Bible Talk, no Bible Talk this week, Bible Talk next week. And then Campus Retreat is coming up last weekend of November or of October, not November.
I was like, what?
And Friendsgiving is coming up. That's the second week of November. And so, yeah, if you need invites for church, let me know. I have a ton of them. If you need invites for campus stuff, I also have a ton of them. Yeah, did I miss anything?
I move on Saturday. Also be there, be square.
Yeah, Ruby's moving.
Yeah.
Ruby's
If,
moving.
yeah, Ruby's moving, so we'll actually all meet at my house. And let her move in.
Wow.
Oh, and I thought you were actually like
No.
inserting body.
I know everyone was.
I did that.
Teens, were you guys planning on going to Milton Pumpkin Festival on Friday?
We made the Milton Friday night festival plan.
Well, Sean mentioned I'm playing guitar on Friday, so I don't know if that was conflicting.
He
Yeah,
mentioned what?
that's beforehand. When are we going to the festival?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
What time?
Wait.
How are we going to Yeah. That'll be fine.
Sean's got all his plans figured out.
Yeah.
Was he talking about the
Are
festival?
you talking about two different?
Yeah,
He was asking because I said that we're playing guitar.
I'll meet you guys there.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll let you know. There is somebody who's in town.
Oh, yeah.
He's thinking about doing a 1-year challenge. And so I don't know where he's staying yet. I still have to talk to Rich about that, but
Is he coming tonight? Or
Maybe.
to Charles?
Maybe.
Oh, we don't know.
TBD.
2 days away.
Yeah,
But
we-
he's coming to visit, he's thinking about doing a 1-year challenge here. So, his name is.
No,
Not
Something-
Drew.
we just talked about
Drake
it.
Dean.
Drake Dean, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
His name is Drake Dean. He's coming to visit. And so, yeah, if you see him, say, hey, introduce yourself. He may be living here. So, yeah. Anything else? Anybody have other things?
What's a 1-year challenge?
Great.
1-year challenge is when you graduate from college, it's taking that next year and going to be on the mission field somewhere. So I think he's thinking about, I don't know if he's thinking about doing school here or not, but he basically wants to take a year and go serve in a small church somewhere. And he's thinking about coming here. So, yeah. Yeah. Cool. Nobody's got anything else? Sweet.